Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We're going to review Sword of the Necromancer and its added free DLC. If you like our content, please subscribe for more reviews, unboxing and game related videos. Sword of the Necromancer is a roguelike dungeon crawler with unique mechanics and a good story. It was initially a Kickstarter project by Glen Games, an indie developer based in Barcelona, and I supported them during their campaign and carried out an unboxing video of their Kickstarter Ultra Collector's Edition. This edition has the recent DLC added to it, which includes post-game content, 8 new bosses and the ability to summon 10 new monsters. Let's check it out. The game starts with our protagonist, a thief hired as a bodyguard called Tama, bringing the body of her deceased ward into the dungeon of the fabled Necromancer, whose legend tells of having found a way to cheat death. With nothing left to lose, Tama sets off and finds the Sword of the Necromancer, which allows her to resurrect fallen monsters and turn them into allies, in an effort to reach the Necromancer and help resurrect Coco. As you progress through the different levels of the game, you'll be presented with a still cutscene going into the girl's past in more detail. I did enjoy being greeted with these story segments upon finishing a level, as it enticed me to push through in order to learn more about our protagonist, her relationship with Coco, and her untimely death. I did feel drawn to the story due to the chemistry of the two main characters and how you slowly see their relationship blossom. In terms of gameplay, this roguelike dungeon crawler will see the protagonist roam through procedurally generated levels full of hazards, trinkets and monsters ready to be slayed and recruited. Your character will gain experience points and you will gain extra strength, defense, hearts or soul points per level. The soul points are displayed on the HUD as blue orbs, and they deplete whenever you dash, summon a monster or charge an attack. As one would expect in any dungeon, there will be treasure chests scattered around that may contain either weapons, potions or trinkets. The developers also managed to use the infrared camera on the right Joy-Con to scan IR codes and generate whatever the code represents. This is a clever feature and a good implementation of some of the specific features that the console has to offer. If you need a potion or powerful summon, for example, you can also manually import the IR code in the game. Codes can be found on Glen Games' Twitter page, and I will leave a link down below. Some monsters can be randomly governed by one of the 6 elements, meaning that using the opposite element whilst attacking will dispatch them quicker. Luckily, some enemies aren't hard to defeat overall, but it's good to know that there's a level of strategy involved when taking out a monster and potentially recruiting them. One of the most appealing aspects of this game is the ability to reanimate defeated monsters and turn them into allies. These recruited monsters will attack enemies on sight and will also level up, making them stronger or more resilient. No two are the same and the stats will differ, so it's recommended to check and compare stats before resurrecting. As great as this mechanic is, and it is very unique, it came with some limits. Firstly, the resurrected monsters AI is not very responsive, and I found myself having to dispel and summon them again closer to the enemy. Another issue is the lack of storage the character has. By default, she will have the Sword of Necromancer assigned to the A button and cannot be removed, meaning that you will have 3 slots left for any trinkets, potions or more allied monsters. You do have an extra 4 slots, but they are assigned to your bag and thus used as extra storage rather than equipment slots. I did find myself only really using necromancy when I didn't have anything else in my inventory, and once I became powerful enough, I focused on equipping better weapons and potions. In a way, it's a shame that you cannot carry more allied monsters with you, and that they can behave so erratically. Although the game doesn't limit you to only using the sword's necromancing powers, and you will be able to collect shards that allow you to upgrade weapons and trinkets further, encouraging the player to experiment with different attributes. Although it wouldn't be a roguelike if you didn't lose something upon defeat. Tama will lose anything she has equipped and her level will be halved. I did not find this game challenging or long, with only 5 dungeon levels with a boss room at the end. This may be why the developers limited how much you could carry in order to balance the gameplay and the difficulty. The game does offer a lot of replay value, however, and finding every monster, weapon or trinket will encourage the player to carry out many playthroughs. As stated earlier, the version I have has the recent added free DLC that includes post-game content including a dungeon editor, a shop and a challenge mode. These help bulk the game somewhat and offer decent gameplay in short bursts. Overall, although it feels a bit short sometimes, it is an enjoyable experience and has its own unique gameplay and charm, which is great considering how many roguelikes already exist on the console. Controls are responsive and equipment is mapped on the button layout. The game is fully voice acted and they have done a decent job, although it won't appeal to everyone. It's more of a means to further convey the narrative with more emotion, and included all voice acting in Japanese as well.
The entirety of my life.
And what does that have to do with taking a stroll on the wild side?
The music in the dungeon levels are atmospheric, somewhat good and not irritating, with the song changing slightly when approaching an enemy. To be fair, I did not expect a big selection of tracks on a game that has so few levels, so what's available does the job. Sound effects work well and further add to the 16-bit presentation that developers were going for. As I mentioned earlier, all the story cutscenes are narrated via still illustrations, accompanied by decent voice acting. The art style suits the story and gameplay well, with interesting enemy designs and characters. In terms of the dungeon levels, there isn't a lot of variety other than floor and wall color that help distinguish where you are. It is hard to include different biomes within a dungeon, to be fair, but a few more props and a bit more moss here and there would have probably given the levels a bit more of a unique feel and personality. I did enjoy the pixelated character models and items within the menus, and overall they have managed to give the game a very cartoonish feel. The enemy and character sprites really pop out of the screen due to the dark and dank palette of the dungeon levels, and it is easy to see your summoned allies thanks to the surrounding coloured circle. All of the spells and special effects are in keeping with the 16-bit style graphics, and the game overall radiates massive Link to the Past vibes, of which I'm sure the developers took a lot of inspiration from. So the final verdict. Sword of the Necromancer is an enjoyable experience, and Grimorio Games have created the base of what could easily be an incredible roguelike franchise. Its biggest downside is the overall length and the limitations within the game's most appealing feature, resurrecting fallen enemies and gaining them as allies. The constant inventory management and the lack of extra equipment slots, alongside the erratic allied AI, deter from the experience slightly. One would think that these were mechanics purposely added to make the game harder, but I personally ditched the whole necromancy gimmick once I forged stronger weapons and trinkets. This is not a bad game at all, and I am happy to have supported the developer during the Kickstarter campaign and seeing them include the DLC, which further adds extra gameplay. Going forward, I would love to see more DLC, whether paid or free, that took advantage of the two-player mechanics of the game, such as a head-to-head monster arena where each player can battle using their summoned monsters. There's a lot of potential here, and there's a lot of fun to be had, especially with the addition of the Colosseum, Challenge and Boss Rush mode. Not to mention the Dungeon Editor, which can be shared via long codes. Here's mine. Enjoy. The game is available both digitally and physically on the Nintendo Switch and other consoles. If you want to try a different type of roguelike that has interesting mechanics and allows for 2 players to play in co-op, then this might be the one for you. I'm giving Soul of the Necromancer a 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching the channel's first review. Apologies if I sound a bit all over the place. I'm recovering from a really bad cold. Hopefully it's not COVID. Stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, all that jazz. If you have any suggestions for any other games that you would like for me to review, please write them down in the comment section down below. And yeah, take care guys, and see you in the next one.